In life, we're often told to give 100%, to push as hard as we can until we've reached our maximum effort. But what if I told you that the idea of giving 100% is just not that simple? It's not a reflection of your true potential. It's an artificial ceiling created by systems like education, the media, and economic policies. These systems have defined what they believe you're capable of, and most of us unknowingly accept it. The truth is, these ceilings are not about your capabilities. They exist to maintain control, to keep you from pushing beyond the boundaries set for you. I learned this firsthand as a teacher in 1994. My students had limitless potential, but the barriers in front of them weren't just mental. They were built into the very structure of the education system itself. The textbooks my students used were outdated, filled with half-truths and omissions. Their history was being erased, their potential stunted by a curriculum that wasn't designed to uplift them but to hold them in place. I couldn't sit by and watch this happen. So, I brought in Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. This wasn't just a book, it was a new way of seeing the world. For the first time, my students were seeing themselves reflected in history. They learned about America through the lens of the marginalized and oppressed, rather than the victors. But the moment I introduced that book, I met resistance. The administration didn't want to update the textbooks. These books are good enough, they said. But good enough for whom? Good enough for students who had been failed by the system year after year? The resistance wasn't just about a book. It was about control over what these students were allowed to learn, and by extension, control over what they were allowed to believe about themselves. Think about this. Who defines what you're capable of, and why have you accepted those limits? The classroom as a battleground. Every decision an educator makes has the potential to either open doors or close them. And for my students, those doors were being slammed shut by a system that refused to change. The textbooks they were using were relics of a bygone era, filled with biased versions of history that erased their stories. So when I introduced new materials, like Zinn's text, I wasn't just teaching them history, I was teaching them how to see themselves in that history.